Bruised, swollen, and ignored. Lipedema, the caca condition. A story about inherited pain, a body that learned to survive, and seeing myself when I was invisible to the system. If you've never heard of lipedema, buckle up, because this has been my reality for a long time. I didn't even know what it was for most of my life. I just knew my body felt wrong, heavy, painful, different. Turns out lipedema isn't just body fat. It's a fat disorder, a fat disease. It affects up to 1 in 10 women, and yet hardly anyone talks about it. It's been misdiagnosed for decades, brushed off as just weight gain or that's where your body stores fat. That's what they told me too. I first noticed something was off when I was 19. I found these weird, painful lumps on my legs and went to the doctor, hopeful for answers. She pressed on them, saw me flinch, and said, "Weird? Oh, well, who knows?" That was it. No tests, no referral, no curiosity, nothing. Fast forward to my 40s, decades later, and I finally got diagnosed. But I had to leave my town and travel to another bloody city just to find a doctor who actually knew what they were looking at. When they confirmed it, I cried in the car park, proper ugly cried. Not because I was sad, but because someone finally believed me. Someone finally knew what the hell I'd been battling for half my life. And let me tell you, this condition is bloody painful, not just physically, though that pain is relentless and exhausting, but emotionally too. Being ignored, being told it's your fault, being trapped in a body you're trying so hard to love while it feels like it's constantly betraying you, that takes a toll. Left untreated, it often brings along its best friend, lymphedema, fluid retention, tissue damage, swelling, compression forever. Because apparently one chronic condition isn't enough. I lived half my life thinking my body was just broken, lazy, stubborn, big boned. Now I know it has a name, a condition I probably inherited from my late grandma, who I miss dearly. Bless her soul. In my case, it came with lymphedema too, like a 2-for-1 deal, because of course it did. I'm no stranger to pain, physical, emotional, mental. I've carried all of it. Some days I'm genuinely surprised I'm still here, still breathing, still hoping things can improve, not just for me, but for others like me. My healing journey with my body has been a full-blown shit show. One of many conditions my specialists missed was lipedema with secondary lymphedema. And yes, there were others. It hasn't been some thrilling roller coaster ride. It's been more like a slow, terrifying ghost train at a dodgy summer carnival. Unpredictable, uncomfortable, and hard to escape. Even after all the inner work I've done, there are days I still wonder what life would feel like in a normal body. A body that works the way it's meant to, with functioning neurology, with pain that shows up only when it should, with mechanics that actually support you. And sometimes I can't help but wonder if this was never just about fat. What if it's about everything my body learned to carry before I even had words for it? Because fat isn't just tissue, it's storage, it's protection, it's a buffer between a sensitive nervous system and a world that doesn't always feel safe. Lipedema doesn't respond to dieting or exercise. It refuses to be burned off. It feels like my body is saying you can't override this with willpower. You have to feel it, witness it, honor it. For me, it mainly lives in my lower body, hips, thighs, legs, the parts connected to grounding, movement, and boundaries. And when I really sit with that, it makes sense. Growing up sensitive, neurodivergent, emotionally wide open, absorbing rooms and moods and expectations and other people's pain, my body learned early how to pad itself, how to brace, how to hold. It became soft armor, a quiet survival strategy. I've had this strange knowing for a long time that some of this isn't even mine, that it lived in my grandmother first, in her legs, in her silence, in the things women learned to swallow because there was no space to speak. Bodies carry bloodlines, they carry memory, they carry survival patterns passed down through generations of women taught to endure, to sacrifice, to make themselves smaller, to keep going even when their bodies were screaming. When something like this shows up across family lines, it feels like the lineage is saying, this story still needs to be witnessed. This pattern still needs healing. Sometimes I feel like my body is a sacred messenger, a slightly dramatic one, sure, with swelling, bruises, and emotional monologues, but a messenger all the same. Because the lymph system meant to cleanse and flow gets blocked in lipedema, fluid stagnates, toxins don't move. And energetically, that mirrors unexpressed feelings, stuck emotion, grief that never got airtime. It feels like my body has been holding onto everything I was too busy surviving to release. And since lipedema mostly affects women, I can't ignore the feminine wound in all of this. Silence voices, caretaking burdens, cultural shame around bodies, generations of women who learn to suffer quietly. Maybe my grandma carried it without words. Maybe her body absorbed what life never allowed her to express. And now my body is bringing it into consciousness. And while I can now come at this from a new lens, a non-victimhood lens to be precise, history is history. It's not about feminism. It's not about equality. In my case, it is about releasing it and setting it free once and for all. Often, when something travels down a lineage, the one who finally becomes aware of it is the one meant to change it. And I reckon that's me. I don't believe my body is broken anymore. I believe it adapted to a world that didn't know how to hold me. I believe it learned to protect me in the only ways it knew how. And maybe, just maybe, as brutal as lipedema is, it's also an act of defiance. It makes the feminine form impossible to ignore. And knowing my life, my story, my spirit, I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly the point. Maybe this is my body saying, I exist. I deserve tenderness. I will not be overlooked. So now I'm learning to listen instead of force, to soften instead of fight, to work with breath, grounding, gentle movement, lymphatic self-massage, not as chores, but as rituals, acts of release, acts of devotion. I'm healing ancestral stories of invisibility and sacrifice. I'm reclaiming joy and sensuality in a body that doesn't fit society's templates. I'm practicing radical compassion, not because it's cute, but because it's necessary. And if your body feels like it's working against you, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's been protecting you in ways no one ever taught it how to stop. Looking back, I always knew I looked different. The world called it fat. Not the good PHAT fat, the 90s kind, when runway thin was the only acceptable shape. But I was an active kid. My parents tried everything, netball, rowing, even wrestling. I moved, I tried, and still my legs felt heavy, tired, resistant. I remember being 9 years old when someone leaned down in the middle of adult small talk to tell me I should run around the oval more often, outside Kmart on a Saturday afternoon, as if I'd asked. Meanwhile, my legs hurt, they swelled. I bruised like an old peach. Little by little, it progressed. I'm stage 3 now. I often wonder what would have been different if I'd known sooner. Did I mention I'm autistic too? Because compression garments feel like being shoved into a sausage factory, and that sensory overload alone can send me into a full body meltdown. Even so, I'm grateful it's not worse. I can still walk. I still have mobility most days, even when it's painful and bloody hard. And then there's Medicare. Lipedema still isn't officially recognised, which means no proper funding and no real support. Treatment costs tens of thousands, sometimes over $100,000. So, yeah, Medicare is late to the party. We're tired. We're in pain. And its silence hurts more than our legs do. If you think you might have this caca condition too, get curious, get answers, and don't forget to love all of you in the process. I say that with love because I could have used the same reminder myself.